Callings for Life. The book you are reading isn't entitled A Calling for Life, but rather Callings for Life. It's plural. And it is important to have that S at the end, callings, because our calling in life is better understood in the plural rather than the singular. You see, there's this myth out there. I call it the myth of the one great thing. The idea is that there's just one important, seismic, incredible thing that God has out there for you to do. And if you miss it, this all-important seismic thing, or if you forget about it, then you're in big trouble and have missed God's will for your life. This is a myth. And in fact, it's a very destructive one at that. The fact of the matter is, you aren't called to just one thing. God has called you to do many things right now. You have callings, not calling. Now, this myth, the myth of the one great thing that you are destined on this earth to do, this myth has two major problems. It leads to either neglect or regret. The first problem, neglect, finds its way into your life through constantly searching for that one great big thing you're supposed to be doing in the future. And so you lose sight of the things that God has called you to do right now, and thus ignore or dismiss the many in search of the one. Conversely, regret happens when we look back on our lives and think, goodness, I missed it. I messed up. There was one great important thing that I was supposed to do, and I let it pass me by. Either I didn't work hard enough to find it, or God never revealed it to me, or I had it in my hands and messed it up completely. So I want you to think about callings, plural. You see, when you ask yourself the questions, what am I called to do? How do I know where my callings in life are? You need to consider three simple things: faces, places, and spaces. Faces is the who. Look around. Who do you see in your everyday life? Who do you wake up and see in the morning? Who do you see on the way into school or to work? Who's in your family? Who are you in class with, studying with? Who are your colleagues, friends, and coworkers? Each of those faces has a calling attached to it. The second thing is places. That's the where. Where do you physically find yourself? Well, you live on planet Earth, so you have a calling to this place. You are a citizen of a country. You are a person that lives in the community. You have a neighborhood. You go to certain places. And each of those places has a calling attached to them. And the third thing is spaces. That's the what. Spaces are the roles that we have in society. You fulfill several roles at once. It might be that you are a husband or a wife, a son or a daughter, a student or teacher, a bank manager or a farmer. Whatever those different roles that you have, they also have callings attached to them. So it is important to begin to open your mind just a little bit to the fact that you have many callings in life, and you find them in the different faces, the different places, and the different spaces of your everyday life. There is a great example of this on page 10 of the book, where I featured a college student named Jamal. As you followed his day, you saw Jamal putting his different callings into action with the people he saw, the places he went, and the things that he did. He saw each of those interactions as an opportunity to exercise his vocations or callings. You got a sense of how he regards God at work through him, and many in various ways throughout his life. Now, as I come to the close of our brief time together, and before you begin to consider the questions on page 29, I want to point out the most important part of our callings in life. That is, of our baptismal calling. While there are many different callings, and there is not one great thing that you put above others in the things God has called you to do in your life, there is one calling in which all of your callings flow from. That is your calling as a baptized child of God. The ways in which you interact with all the faces, places, and spaces in your life flow from the love that God has in Christ for you. St. Paul reminds us that the fruit of the Spirit that flows from this baptismal calling, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So, as you go about your days, do so in joy as a baptized child of God, rejoicing in sharing the love of Christ with others, the faces and in the places and spaces of your life.